So, Jenn Wexler, you're back.
Back.
You're back at FrightFest.
Yes.
You're fresh.
Fresh and ready to go.
So obviously we had your last film as the opening night of FrightFest, which was The Ranger, back a couple of years ago. You're back here with your brand new film, The Sacrifice Game,
yes.
which is going to be premiering this evening. Mm-hmm. Take us through from The Ranger to The Sacrifice Game.
Oh man, so The Ranger, we were here in 2018. Later that year, we were released on Shudder. And we, my co-writer Sean Radlitz and I started working on Sacrifice Game around that time. And we were all pumped to make it, but then COVID happened, which actually gave us a lot of time to dive even deeper into the script while we were at home all the time for 2 years. And then last spring, we actually finally made the movie in Montreal with some awesome Canadian producers, as well as Heather Buckley, who was a producer on The Ranger.
Now, obviously, as we speak, the premiere is just across Leicester Square tonight on that huge IMAX screen. And The Ranger, as I say, was the premiere a few years ago here as the opener. But with no spoilers, tell us about The Sacrifice Game. Because it's a very different film, although there's some kind of punk, spiky elements. Yeah. So it's interconnected with The Ranger, but it's a very different film.
Yeah, I think it also, like The Ranger, has a little bit of an anarchic streak through it.
Absolutely.
So The Sacrifice Game is set in the early 70s, and it is about two boarding school girls who are forced to spend Christmas break at their boarding school. They can't go home for their various reasons. And on Christmas Eve, a gang of Manson-esque killers comes to the school and mayhem ensues, and I won't go further than that.
Absolutely. When you sent it through, within the first 5 minutes, I was like, absolutely, yes, this is perfect. The cast, great cast, loads of brilliant female protagonists in it. So take us through the casting.
So it's an ensemble piece, an 8-person ensemble piece. So we have Mina Massoud, who people know from Aladdin. He plays Aladdin, and he's so charming in real life and as Aladdin. And I was so excited when I was introduced to him. We talked about this. I was like, I want to take that charm and I want to twist it and I want to make it really evil. And he was so down and excited to go there. And then Olivia Scott Welch, who's in the Fear Street movies, and she was also in The Blue Rose, which played last night.
Yep.
And she's great.
Yep.
We have Chloe Levine, who was
Returning.
the star of The Ranger.
In a very different role.
Very different
Very
role.
different. She's brilliant in it as well.
Yes,
Yep.
and I love working with her because we had such a great working relationship on The Ranger. And when we started writing The Sacrifice Game, she was Rose in my mind. And when we actually got to set, it was really cool because we already had our working relationship. We were able to just dive into our relationship that already existed. From that. And we also have Gus Kenworthy, who is an Olympic medalist. And he's also...
In what? An Olympic medalist
skiing.
In skiing? Okay.
Sorry, yes. Skiing Olympic medalist. And he's also an American Horror Story. And I loved him in American Horror Story. And we're so lucky that he got to come and be a part of this.
Amazing.
And then we have some great up-and-coming Canadian actors, Madison Baines and Georgia Akin. And also, Laurent Pitre is also from Canada, and so is Derek Johns, who, if you watch The Boys, you might recognize as Love Sausage.
Love Sausage. I've never seen The Boys.
Okay, well, use your imagination as to what his character
I totally get it.
is.
And of course, we mustn't forget another key component to your film is Heather Buckley.
Heather Buckley is...
The force of nature, the punk force of nature.
Yes.
That is Heather, who produced both The Ranger and The Sacrifice Game, and she's a director in her own right, isn't she?
Yeah.
Just the Hellraiser thing that she's done.
Exactly. Yeah, she does docs, horror docs. She knows everything about the horror genre.
She knows everything about everything.
About music.
She knows more about London.
She knows more about you than you know about yourself.
I know. It's kind of great but weird. Yeah. She knows more about Alan Jones than
Yeah, then Alan's like, oh.
And she's been
okay.
going around London and just,
Yeah.
she's like, oh yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Heather produced it, of course, yeah?
Yeah, so with the Ranger, she was one of the first people I showed the Ranger to, and she was so supportive as we were developing it and as we were like getting financing for it. And then when we finished the Ranger, writing Sacrifice Game, she was probably one of the first people we showed Sacrifice Game to, and she introduced us to Phil Kalin and Albert Melamed, who are based in Montreal. And with our powers combined, we figured out how we could make this happen in Montreal.
Amazing, amazing. How was the shoot?
Incredible.
Where and how long? Was it tough or was it easy?
I think it was tough in an adrenaline way, in a way where we were all, it's an indie shoot, but tough in when I say an adrenaline way, in a way that's just so joyful. When I'm making a movie, I just find so much joy in all the intensity. I'm like always on cloud 9 because we're getting to make a movie, and that's the most magical experience ever. So we shot for 20 days outside of Montreal at this old abbey called Oka Abbey, and it was built in like the 1800s. And when we did our location scout, I just totally fell in love with it. I was like, this is the school, the Black Veil School for Girls. And I was introduced to the Quebec filmmaking community, who's incredible. I made so many friends. I now feel like I have a whole family in Quebec, and worked with an awesome DP named Alexander Bussière. And we have a wonderful composer, Mario Savigny, and also our editor is here, Arthur Tarnowski. So production and post was all in Montreal, and I lived most of 2022 in Montreal.
So distribution-wise, what's happening with the film?
So we're coming to Shudder later this year, and then we have Red Sea Media, who's handling international sales for it too.
And what's happening with you next?
Well, when the strikes are over,
Sure.
I have a couple projects that I'm hoping will happen right away. And in the meantime, I'm just prepping for those and writing on my own.
I'm guessing you're going to stay within genre, or are you going to...
I only want to make genre movies.
That's it?
That's it.
Nothing else ever? No romantic comedies or...
No. Dramas, no. It has to have a horror subgenre. Sure. I want to explore all the horror subgenres. There's nothing that brings me more joy than playing with horror tropes and combining them in new ways and discovering new nuances. But it has to be genre.
Wow. More power to you. Amazing. Thank you so much, Jenn. You've been a brilliant guest all weekend.
Thank you, Paul. This has been so fun. Thank you for having us.